Simeon Woods Richardson comes into the season as one of the most important starting pitchers on the Minnesota Twins, and I explain the one thing the Twins need out of him the most.
You are Locked On Twins, your daily Minnesota Twins podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into Locked On Twins, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, now the #1 sports podcast network. I'm CJ Baumgartner, Twins writer for Zone Coverage and a lifelong Twins fan. This episode of Locked On Twins is brought to you by MLB The Show 26. Visit MLB.show/lockedon and use code LOCKEDON to unlock a pack for use in Diamond Dynasty. Available now on PlayStation 5, Xbox, and Nintendo Switch. Rated E for everyone. Stay tuned later in the episode for our MLB Top 100 highlight. Today we take a look at the Minnesota Twins Spring Breakout game and how it went pretty darn good for the Twins prospects. We also look at more potential rule changes in the minor leagues. Could they be coming to the majors? How would they impact things? We're going to talk about that and more. But first, we lead off the show today talking about Simeon Woods Richardson, and he's ended up being kind of the most constant member of this Twins rotation. We know Joe Ryan and Pablo Lopez have been towards the top. Pablo's injury issues have kind of taken him out of this discussion, but we know Joe Ryan. He's an excellent starting pitcher. The thing you always wonder is health, and does he wear down over the course of a season? Those are the things you know with Ryan, but you know more often than not, you are going to get a quality start from Joe Ryan. He's going to miss a lot of bats, may give up a home run or two from time to time, but you know what you're getting out of Joe Ryan. You know the high-end parts of that. And with the rest of the rotation, it's a lot of young guys. We know there's question marks with Bailey Ober. We've talked about that all throughout the show. Go listen to our episodes earlier this week, and you'll hear me talk about that. But there's question marks with Ober. Okay, well, now there's a bunch of young guys. There's Mick Abels. There's Taj Bradley's. There's Zebby Matthews. There's Andrew Morris's, Kendry Rojas's. There's a lot of these names that, David Festa's. We just don't have a ton of information on, or if we do, it's still, again, very young in their careers. There's still a lot of development that needs to take place. We don't really know a ton about them. So there's not a lot of constants outside of Joe Ryan right now for this Twins rotation, except for when you look at Simeon Woods Richardson. Now, I don't think Simeon Woods Richardson has the capabilities to be a top-end, high-end starting pitcher. I think his ceiling, realistically, is a number 3 starter on this Twins team, on a lot of Twins teams, like a 4 or 5 starter on a really, really excellent team. And that's kind of where it sits for Simeon Woods Richardson. And that's okay. I don't think the Twins need to have everybody try and compete to be this ace of the rotation. And this is where Simeon Woods Richardson comes in, because I think the biggest thing about Woods Richardson is you know what you're getting from that guy every single time. You know exactly what a Simeon Woods Richardson start is going to look like. He's going to pitch really well in the first 3 innings, maybe run into some trouble over the next couple. He'll give you 4.5 to 5 really good innings of play that maybe aren't keeping a lineup down to 0 runs over the first half of the game. But when he leaves the mound, more often than not, the Minnesota Twins are in contention to win the game. Rarely is he leaving. And I mean, he only had like 4 starts over his last season where he gave up 4 or more runs. A lot of the time he was leaving, giving up 2 runs, giving up 3 runs, leaving the game. And a lot of times that puts the Minnesota Twins in position to at least come back or win or whatever. That's not, by the time the starter leaves the game, it's like, well, we're cooked. Let's have the bullpen mop this up and we'll just eat it and try and go after it tomorrow. There's not a lot of those with Simeon Woods Richardson's game. And last year, he had an ERA in the 4s, had a weighted ERA, though, closer to 3.82, which, again, goes to show that he pitched a little bit better than maybe some people could give him credit for. The biggest thing with Simeon Woods Richardson is finding that groove in his fastball. If you look at the numbers, according to Baseball Savant, his fastball in 2024 had an 8 rating, +8. Same with the slider, and then +4 on the curveball. His changeup was -16. So not great. And while the changeup did get better in 2025 as a -5, the curveball was a 0 rating, the slider was just a 1, and his four-seamer was just a 2 run value overall. So trying to, again, get a little bit more refined with some of those pitches, continue to work on trying to get back to that 2024 level, mainly with the fastball and the slider. I think if you try and do that, you can live with some of the other ones not catching up. But those two pitches, really, if you can find a way to get back to his older form in that, would be really, really beneficial for the Twins over the course of the season. But looking at the numbers for Simeon Woods Richardson, I don't think necessarily you look at him and you say, wow, we need big changes with the stuff. We need high strikeout numbers. We need whatever. If you want to look at it with Simeon Woods Richardson, the walk rate was 9.8% last year, and the league average is 8.4. His player average is 9.1. So still trying to bring down the walks, especially if you're not going to be a high strikeout guy, don't necessarily want to have a ton of walks. Now, you can live with some at the end of the day, but again, that's still just too high of a walk rate, too many extra base runners allowed. And this is the biggest thing with Simeon Woods Richardson overall and why he is so important for this Twins team. It is that every single night, you know what you're getting. You know you are going to get 4 to 5 innings of Simeon Woods Richardson pitching. And I know that there's been a lot of talk about quick hook Rocco, and the Twins need to let him go deeper into games, and they need to do this, and they need to do that. And to be fair, last year, the Twins did let him go 5 to 6 innings, a little bit more towards the end of last season. But that being said, I mean, you just have to look at the numbers with Simeon Woods Richardson, and you can see that, yeah, he definitely struggled with with length in terms of how far he pitched into games. His 4.9 innings per start was ranked 108th out of 117 qualified starting pitchers from 2025. So he's not a guy that has been known to pitch deep into games. And I don't think that's a character flaw. And I don't think that his success hinges on him pitching 6 innings consistently. I mean, it'd be nice if he did, but I think the biggest thing is just, again, you look at the numbers and he's not necessarily the guy who's always going to be pitching well deep into ball games. If you look at his stats, innings 1 through 3, he has a 3.71 ERA. Innings 4 through 6, a 4.57 ERA. If you look at his time facing opponents in games, first time through the batting order, has a 222 batting average and a 635 OPS. Good. Then you look at the third time he faces opponents, and people will bring up and say, well, hey, hold on. He's got a 180 batting average against opponents his third time through the lineup. What's the holdup? And the holdup is in the OPS, which is, again, a 645. And you can look at those numbers and say, well, aren't they that bad? The problem is he has only 50 at-bats against teams a third time through the lineup, which means that typically when that's happening, it's because he's having a good day. Like, the Twins aren't just constantly throwing him third time through the lineup, because when you look, his second time through the lineup is his worst. 233 batting average, a 727 OPS against Woods Richardson. So it all depends. His second time through the order is really what lets you know if it's a good Simeon Woods Richardson start or not. And if he wants to pitch deeper into games, he needs to do better the second time through the lineup. But at the end of the day, with this Twins rotation, I'm okay if Simeon Woods Richardson is 5 innings and done. What's the point of pitching a 6th inning if it's going to be a blow up, or he's going to run into trouble and cause issues for the bullpen and all that stuff? If you get 5 clean innings out of Simeon Woods Richardson, and if things are going well, if things are happening, it's not like Richardson's necessarily, again, with the high walk rate, again, with a guy who doesn't pitch deep into games, he labors a lot. It's not like he's efficient. Finding a way to be more efficient would be ideal. But when you look at all of this, the biggest thing Simeon Woods Richardson puts into this Minnesota Twins rotation is that you know what you're getting out of him every single time. He's consistent. Even if he's not going to have the high-end results, even if he's not going to pitch deep into games, I'm okay with that because I think he does fit a role. Every team needs a 9-hitter, right? Every team needs a guy who's going to hit at the bottom of the lineup and produce, because even though they're not the best, that you still need somebody to be down there and be effective. And I think that's the same thing with the Twins. Somebody needs to be this team's 4th or 5th starter in terms of production level. And Simeon Woods Richardson fits that 3 through 5 range of a starter very, very well. And even though they need more high-end guys, you still do need guys that are less volatile. I think Woods Richardson is the least volatile starting pitcher on this team. You know exactly what you're getting out of him every single time, which is 4 to 5 innings, about 3.5 runs allowed, and you see where you're at in the ball game. And more often than not, it's not a quality start, 6 innings, 3 earned runs or less, but it certainly is a start that puts your team in position to win. And I think night in and night out, if you can count on that for Woods Richardson, I think that's a success. Even if his ERA is in the low 4s, I'm okay with that if more often than not, you're leaving the game that Woods Richardson pitches with a chance to win. All right, we are going to talk more about the Minnesota Twins spring breakout game and, of course, some new rule changes coming to minor league baseball. And could we see them coming into the major leagues next year? We're going to break down all that and more. It's coming up right after this. This week's MLB Top 100 highlight is brought to you by MLB The Show 26, the latest from the beloved video game franchise. Each week, we're highlighting the stars of MLB's top 100 players list, the elite names you'll be controlling, building around, and going head-to-head with in MLB The Show. Today, we're spotlighting Pablo Lopez, who's ranked number 93 in the MLB's top 100, and you saw it over the course of his Twins career, the command, the strikeouts, what makes him elite, his ability to generate 200-plus strikeout seasons. Did it in 2023, flirted with it in 2024, was going to get there in 2025 had he not gotten injured, and it's devastating that he's out with Tommy John surgery. It would have been fun to see him pitch for Team Venezuela in the World Baseball Classic. Would have been great to see him pitch and help lead this young Minnesota Twins starting rotation in 2026. But that being said, you can still play as him in MLB The Show, where his dominance shows up in MLB The Show 26 with upgraded ratings, new animations, and improved gameplay feel. If you're a Twins fan, this is the guy you want to build your starting rotation around. And the good news is in MLB The Show, you can sign him to a long-term contract like the Twins probably won't. And in the show, you can do exactly that. MLB The Show is great. Of course, the World Baseball Classic just got done. There's a whole bunch of World Baseball Classic themed things, especially in Diamond Dynasty. That's great. MLB The Show 26 lets you be the guy the way we talk about them every day. Their clutch moments, breakout seasons, and new superstar traits. Are you going to join Pablo Lopez on your road to the show with the Minnesota Twins? What will your legacy be in Road to the Show, MLB The Show's career mode? Will you make it to Cooperstown? This week's Top 100 MLB highlight presented by MLB The Show 26, where you can play, manage, and build your favorite players and teams. If you love talking baseball, you'll love playing it even more. Visit MLB.show/lockedon and use code LOCKEDON to unlock a pack for use in Diamond Dynasty. Internet connection is required. It's available now on PlayStation 5, Xbox Series S and X, and Nintendo Switch. It's rated E for everyone. College basketball is nonstop. Big games, tight spreads, momentum swings every single night. From early tip-offs to late-night West Coast shootouts, there's always action on the board. And now, FanDuel is giving you a way to turn that energy into even bigger potential wins with a college basketball parlay profit boost. You can build any college hoops parlay you want, rivalry games, ranked matchups, whatever you want. You can mix spreads, totals, and player props to match how you see the slate playing out. Then you can apply the profit boost and instantly bump up the potential payout. Go safe, go bold, ride with the team you've been following all season. It's your parlay, your style, now with more upside behind it. Head to FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com. FanDuel, play your game. Don't forget to check out the Everydayer Club for ad-free episodes and access to a group chat with other listeners of the show. Tap the link in the show notes or go to lockedontwins.supercast.com. All right, well, the future Twin stars shone bright in the Breakout Challenge game, getting a 9-3 victory over the Philadelphia Phillies in Fort Myers yesterday afternoon. Let's go over some key moments here. Kaelen Culpepper drove in 3 runs for the Minnesota Twins in the game. Emmanuel Rodriguez and Gabriel Gonzalez each got 2 hits. Eduardo Tait at catcher, playing the organization that traded him away, the Phillies, in the Joan Duran trade, knocked in a couple runs as well. And the big story was Dasan Hill reaching 100 on the radar gun in the first inning. ended up giving 1 earned run up in 2 2/3 innings pitched with 3 strikeouts on the day. And this is the fun part, right? You get to see the future Minnesota Twins stars playing together in one lineup. And you go, hey, in 2027, we could see something look like this. Maybe 2027 is too soon. Maybe like the 2028 Minnesota Twins could look a lot like this lineup here. And it gets you excited because the Twins do have a good amount of top prospects. You know, they have 2 top 100 prospects. When you look at Taiit, when you look at Walker Jenkins, when you look at Kaelen Culpepper, Culpepper and Jenkins are the Twins' 2 top 100 prospects. I think Taiit slips in at the back end, but either way, you have the talent. You have Emmanuel Rodriguez ready to crack through. You have Kaelen Culpepper, Gabriel Gonzalez. You have a good mix of hitters that are going to come up. And we talk a lot of time, all the time. We talk a lot about the Twins' young starting pitchers and Kendry Rojas and Andrew Morris, Mick Abel, Taj Bradley, Zebby Matthews, David Festa. But Dasan Hill is kind of that next group where in the next couple years, we'll be talking about Dasan Hill rising through the ranks of the Minnesota Twins system. His first full year, he was a second-round pick in 2024 out of high school. His first full year in the minors last year, pitched in low A, was excellent in Fort Myers, got himself up to single A, and made a start for the Colonels in their Midwest League playoff win. And if you look at his write-up on MLB.com, they talk about how the Twins are thrilled with how Hill acclimated to pro ball, with his fastball touching 99 miles per hour at times in his starts. And you saw it touching 100 yesterday. And look, the fact that he may have hit at 100 may have just been the fact that he's a little amped up for the spring breakout game. It's televised on the Twins app. It's, you know, the radio call is there. They omitted covering the night game for radio so that way they could cover the breakout game with the minor leaguers. There's a lot staked onto this start. And so he's a little amped up, hits 100. Don't know how often he'll do that, but it's cool to see him be able to touch that. But he averaged 95 during his debut season with the fastball. And as he gets going, again, he's got that 6'5" frame. We talked about it with Bailey Ober and how the Twins really like these taller starting pitchers with the longer wingspans and the extensions. And even something that Simeon Woods Richardson does really well is the extension on the pitches and keeping it in your hand just a second longer to make sure that teams see the ball less and have less time to react. He had a 41% miss rate according to Synergy, and he also has a big upper 70s curveball that misses bats at the same rate. He's got an 84 mile per hour changeup that's good against righties. And according to MLB.com, they say there isn't a need to tinker too much with his arsenal because he had a 30% strikeout rate in 2025. So we'll see if the Twins do anything with that or if they kind of let it ride. But for Hill, it's just going to be pitching more innings because now you're going to have another full season under your belt. How does your arm hold up? How does all that stuff happen? And also, it's just going to be the strike zone. Had a pretty big walk rate last year. So just trying to neutralize that, finding the strike zone more. And of course, the more confident he gets in his stuff, the more we will see what he can do. And he also spent the entire offseason at the complex in Fort Myers. He's only 20 years old, which is insane that he's starting his second year of pro ball at 20. And he's going to start the year, I think, in high A in Cedar Rapids. I don't think you rush him too much to double A quite yet. I think you probably let him kind of do a similar path to last year, which is where you let him sit at the current level, which at that time was low A. And then if he pitches well, give him the promotion at the end of the year and kind of motivate him into the next year. So I think he probably pitches a lot in Cedar Rapids unless things change in a hurry. And then he pitches in double A by the end of the season. And then you go into 2027 knowing that this guy, if all things go well, could be a stone's throw away from the major leagues. I don't think Dasan Hill's going to be, if Dasan Hill ends up playing for the Twins in 2026, he's either launched into the stratosphere or something has gone horribly wrong with the Twins injuries and the Twins depth and things like that. Zebby Matthews did make the jump in 2024. He started the year in Cedar Rapids and ended up making multiple starts for the Minnesota Twins at the big league level. So you could see that happen. But overall, at the end of the day, Dasan Hill gives you excitement with somebody who throws for high heat. He's got the extension. He's somebody who, again, is kind of seen as that next top pitching prospect in the system if you don't consider some of these other guys like your top prospects, if you consider that like Abel and some of these other guys have graduated from their prospect status. And if you look on the list, Dasan Hill is ranked as the Twins' 6th overall prospect, according to MLB Pipeline. Only Connor Prelip is higher on this Twins starting pitching list. But again, guys like Prelip, Rojas, Morris, Bradley, Abel, those guys are all kind of considered like very MLB ready. So then if you look at the next crop of, okay, well, after those guys all come up, who's the next guy we're keeping our eye on? It certainly is Dasan Hill, the lefty. He's got the big arm. And this is intriguing. The Twins really haven't had a lot of left-handed starting pitchers, especially prospects, come up through their system. Connor Prelip and Dasan Hill are two guys where it'll be very interesting to see how left-handed starting pitchers come up through the Twins system and produce at the MLB level should they get there over the next couple years. All right, well, that's going to wrap up our conversation on the breakout game. We are going to wrap up the show overall by talking about some rule changes coming to minor league baseball and with the pitch comms and timeouts related. What I like and what I really don't like is coming up after this. What if sports were traded like markets? Now you can put your sports IQ to work in real time with Robinhood prediction markets. It's not you against the house. It's you participating in a live market. You can buy or sell your positions live all game long. Use your sports knowledge in the moments that matter. Robinhood prediction markets changes the game. It's people moving the action. So when momentum shifts, you can move with it. I always knew the game, but never had a dynamic way to apply that knowledge. Now I can actually take part live in a market powered by people. You're no longer just a spectator. Play by play, you decide. Never trade every play with Robinhood, now available across the U.S. Download the Robinhood app now to begin. Futures and cleared swaps trading involves significant risk and is not appropriate for everyone. Event contracts are offered by Robinhood Derivatives, LLC, a registered futures commission, merchant, and swap firm. Workplace chaos, deadlines stacking up, inbox overflowing, and the one position you have to fill still sitting open. When the pressure's on and you need the right hire, this is a job for Sponsored Jobs. Indeed, Sponsored Jobs helps you reach the people who actually fit what you're looking for. Skills, experience, location. So you're not just hoping the right candidate stumbles across your post. And here's a stat that says it all. In the minute I've been talking to you, companies like yours made 27 hires on Indeed, according to Indeed data worldwide. So if you're hiring, spend less time searching and more time interviewing candidates who check all your boxes with Indeed Sponsored Jobs. Spend less time searching and more time actually interviewing candidates who check all your boxes. Less stress, less time, more results. When you need the right person to cut through the chaos, this is a job for Indeed Sponsored Jobs. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to help your job get the premium status it deserves at Indeed.com/podcast. Just go to Indeed.com/podcast right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? This is a job for Indeed Sponsored Jobs. Rule changes coming to minor league baseball, what I like and what I really don't like. So yesterday we talked about moving back second base. You have that in air quotes, and limiting disengagements. And now we're talking about basically how the league is going to implement pitch clock rule changes and timeouts and all things like that. But again, to kind of recap, the league has had recent success with the pitch clock, the 3-batter minimums, bigger bases, and Manfred's head is getting a little big about tinkering with the game. 100%, I believe that. But also some changes are needed. Some are overkill. We're breaking down all these rule changes. And again, this is coming from a piece that Jason Stark did in The Athletic. Go read that piece. He breaks it all down. And I'm going to give you the quick synopsis along with my view of the situation. And with today, we are talking about crackdowns on the pace of play because games in 2025 were actually 2 minutes longer on average than in 2023. It was 2:40 last year, 2 hours, 40 minutes, compared to 2:38 in 2023. It sounds small, but the league is not trying to go back on pace of play, which has been Rob Manfred's biggest achievement as commissioner. And I'm not a Rob Manfred fan at all, but he does get credit for the pitch clock and limiting pace of play and trying to limit times of games, I should say, duration of the game. And it's helped baseball grow in popularity. It's a big time for the league. It's growing, especially amongst younger fans. Pace of play has been fixed for the moment, and they're trying not to lose that momentum. That being said, it doesn't mean the league needs to manufacture and tinker with everything. I told that story yesterday about the guy who tinkers with a snowmobile all the time, and then all of a sudden you find the guy who doesn't touch it at all and ends up having to go to the shop more because he's tinkering with it all the time, because you're just kind of messing with things and messing with things and messing with things. And eventually it can kind of get overwhelming for the machine. And that could be true with baseball overall. But let's look at some of the rule changes that are getting implemented in the minor leagues. They're not coming to the major leagues anytime soon, unless, of course, they're successful, and then Major League Baseball is going to roll right in with them. But the minor leagues are perfect testing grounds for this new stuff. I have no problem with Major League Baseball experimenting with rule changes in the minor leagues, because if the numbers work, then we have nothing to complain about, like the pitch clock. And if it's bad, everybody can see it's bad, the league can see it's bad, and we all move on. So looking at the pitch clock, according to Jason Stark, it is going to get harder to beat the pitch clock. There's going to be no batter timeouts in low A. I don't like that at all. I don't like the batters will no longer be allowed to call timeout at any point in an at-bat, except for what they call special circumstances, which the league defines as brushbacks, injury concerns, and what they call bona fide equipment issues and things of that nature. I don't like that batters can't call a timeout at all, because pitchers love this. If you want to generate more offense in your game, having batters not be able to call a timeout is not great. Pitchers would love nothing more than to quick pitch hitters over and over and over and over again. And yeah, hitters would have to adjust. I get it. But also, that feels like it's a massive advantage for pitchers. And as somebody who, again, I'm a high school ball player, got nothing more other than playing town ball on the weekends in rural Minnesota. But that being said, it's really annoying to get quick pitched. It really is. And calling that timeout, again, even if it's just one, is still important. I think 2 is the limit you have now in Major League Baseball. But still, I think no batter timeouts is a little aggressive. In other high A leagues, I should say, batters can call time only with a runner on base. Again, the special circumstances rule is still in place. But again, I don't like that, especially with a runner on second base, pitchers can just quick pitch you. I don't like that. I don't necessarily think that that's great. I get the intention. I don't think that it's going to be executed properly, would be my thing. Now, shorter timeouts in double and triple A. I think if you want to limit timeout length, that's fine. But no timeouts or one timeout in general, not necessarily great. In the upper levels, batters can still call time in double A and triple A, but umpires will no longer wait for the hitter to be ready before they restart the clock. Instead, they will immediately reset the pitch clock, and hitters have to be back in the box, eyes locked on the pitcher, before the clock hits 8 seconds remaining, or it'll be a pitch clock violation. I can get with that one. I don't love it. I don't love a lot of these ones, but I get it. And I think if we're going to do any of them, that would be the compromise I would get behind. Now, all is fair for hitters and pitchers. For pitchers, pitch calm crackdowns are coming. And for me, that's welcomed, because the league has correctly figured out that pitchers are now stopping the clock more often by routinely, you see it. They're holding their hands up. They go, my pitch calm isn't working. Oh, no, you got to stop the clock for a second. Well, we figured this out. And they were kind of using it to basically buy extra timeouts, especially because then sometimes the hitter or the pitcher would go talk with the catcher. And what the league is now doing in AAA, you can still do that, but it will be counted against your mound visit. And if a pitcher claims that a pitch calm is on the fritz, according to Stark, after his team is out of the mound visits, it will be considered a pitch clock violation, meaning an automatic ball. Yeah, no, implement that one in the major leagues like today. That one I can get behind. I think that one's okay. I think we're all good if we do that one. I'm also okay with quicker mound visits. Throughout the minor leagues, there will be a mound visit countdown clock, and everyone except the pitcher has to leave the mound before the clock hits 0. And if it doesn't happen, it will be considered a pitch clock violation. And this one I can get behind. Oh, but what are you doing? You're taking away strategy and taking away all this. Look, in basketball, they have 30-second timeouts. Sometimes it's not always deep into the weeds strategy. It's just hey, I'm calling this timeout. Let's mentally reset, go get them. Or I'm just going to remind you this one thing because you're in the middle of a game. You've spent hours talking strategy beforehand and contingency plans. If you're not prepared for something in the middle of the game, that's on you. So I don't think that we need long timeouts in the middle of games. I'm okay with the mound visits being quicker as well. Across the minor leagues, catchers can no longer stop the clock by getting out of their crouch and leaving their position to give defensive signals to the infielders. The clock will now continue to tick, and the catcher needs to be back in the catcher's box before it hits 9. That too will be a pitch clock violation if he doesn't make it. Again, not that I'm like, put it in right now, but yeah, I think that's okay. I think I can get behind that. Basically, they consider a lot of these techniques a mild form of what Stark puts in his piece, chicanery. Teams are kind of gaming the system with a little bit of this stuff. And the league is like, okay, you're doing all these little things to try and buy yourself more time. We're going to limit that. We are going to take that away. And again, it's a case of, this is my case with the pitch clock entirely, by the way. I don't love the pitch clock. I don't even love the idea of a pitch clock. Baseball not being determined by a clock is great. And I think one of the very endearing features of the game. But that being said, there is a case of the players need to police themselves a little bit. And with the pitch clock, pre-pitch clock era in the last decade of baseball, they did an awful job of policing themselves. They did an awful job of keeping pace of play up themselves. They'd rip the gloves off. They get on the mound, shake 5 times, step off, do the same thing a couple times. There is gamesmanship in the game, and I don't want that to go away. But at the same time, I don't want gamesmanship to stay at the expense of games being 45 minutes longer. Get going, play the game, get back in the box, get ready to play. There is the case of arm injuries, and I understand that critique. I understand that concern. It's still just too early to know a direct correlation. And if correlation equals causation, we just don't have enough time. We need more time to gather data and information and things like that. And I think overall, the league will adjust. It'll adjust. And again, I think some of the rule changes when it comes to batters calling timeouts, I get they're trying to be fair to the pitchers. But that being said, their pitchers are the ones that control pace of play a lot. And a batter taking a timeout, and I think if a batter takes a timeout, they should be on the clock and it should be minimal. You don't get a timeout to take a full 20 seconds and breathe and take 2 practice cuts and redo your gloves and get back in the box. If you're taking a timeout, just to take a quick breath, rethink, hop back in. That's it. I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that being the thing that stays. I'm not okay with pitcher or hitters getting no timeouts. They're just going to get quick pitched to infinity. Pitchers are licking their chops for that one. But I do think pitchers have gamed the system with pitch clocks. I do think catchers have gamed the system with getting out of their crouch to call defensive signals. Yeah, get back. I didn't even know that you could get a pause on the pitch clock for that. No, that's 100% correct. Get behind the plate, get ready to play ball. Oh, but they're not going to have time to discuss things. Again, in every other sport, you have the ability, like these other sports and like in baseball, to talk about these things before the game. And in baseball, I know that they're limiting the downtime, but I always had a high school coach tell me, if you think baseball is boring, you're not paying attention. There's a million situations that could happen on any given pitch, and you need to get yourself ready for all of them. So for all this, there's less time to talk about strategy. There's plenty of time to talk about strategy. You just got to be on top of it more. And if that means that it's going to make people prepare harder, do all this stuff, I think that's just fine. All right, well, thanks for tuning into today's Locked On Twins. On Monday, it is going to be opening day week. We get you ready for the start of Twins baseball with our countdown to opening day. I'm so excited. Make sure you subscribe and follow Locked On Twins so you get all of the latest episodes. And remember, you can find me on X at BombCJ30. If you never miss an episode, the Everydayer Club is built for you. Get Locked On Twins ad-free, plus members-only Discord access and more. Head to lockedontwins.supercast.com to join the club. For those of you on video, we send you to the first ever 24/7 national Locked On Podcast Network YouTube channel on audio for your second listen. Go check out Locked On MLB Top 100 List Reveal presented by PlayStation. I'm CJ Baumgartner. See ya.